Good morning, Todd Profit again with the State University of New York at Fredonia, and this is for Lighting Design 1, and I want to talk today about how to make a cue list and go in a little more in depth than maybe we had done before. So when making a cue list, the first place you always start is a script. Over here I have an example of a script. This is my Miss Nelson is Missing script, and it's on my iPad. What I've been doing recently, I probably haven't used a paper script in a while, simply because I don't like wasting paper, and I just find dealing with the digital script much easier. This is a PDF version. Whenever I work for Theater of Youth, they typically send me a PDF version to begin with. So here it is. One of the first things I'll do is I'll just go through, oftentimes before when I'm reading the script, second or third time, and sometimes during designer run, I'll actually go through and just start putting in a bunch of cues. Now I went ahead and I knew that one was going to be Q3, so I went ahead and put it there. Let me just show you a little further down here. So as we start the show, I need a cue there, I need a cue there, I need a cue there. This just kind of gives me a placeholder. Now with toy, that's as far as I go on here, because I actually go straight into my cue list and I don't actually put them in my script. For a lot of other places I work, I do go much further. There's a few different ways you can do that. A lot of people, what they like to do is they'll put the cue number off in the left-hand side, and then they're going to draw a line over to the cue and place where it's called. They put it in pencil because they'll erase that line and they'll move the cue line as they go along. Now this isn't for the stage manager, this is just for you as the lighting designer. Now the way you can do it is you can actually move and just put the cues exactly where they go, which is an example here, or something like this where you draw the cue, you put the cue number in, and you draw a quick little line to it just to show where it goes. One of the things I do like to do in my scripts is I do like, anytime they mention lights, I do like to highlight them. I just think that that's just little reminders for me that I need to do things. So that's about as far as I'm going to go to the script. Now the next thing I'm going to do is then I'm going to move that to, I'm going to move into my cue list. And I've got a bunch of examples of cue lists. Let's start with the most simple one. Let me make this bigger so you can see it. This is for Pete the Cat. Not last show, I did one of the first show of this season at Theater of Youth. Let me get just one bigger so you can see it. All right. So basically, what I've done is I've gone through and I've written my cues down. Let me take this one smaller. Okay. I go through and put my numbers in. Typically, the first thing I do is I do odds. Everybody numbers their cues differently. I'm sorry, I don't do odds. I do evens. I like to leave room in there because, as you're going to see as we go along, I have to add cues in. So it just makes it so that the numbering doesn't get too off. I know people who really don't like having any point cues at all. So what they'll do is they'll do like fives. I know one of your colleagues who's a senior prefers that because they just don't like the point cues in between. Some people do them in ones, and that's fine too. With the older consoles, you had to be careful. You only had 10 cues you could put in between. I'm thinking, well, that's a lot. That's a lot of cues. It is, but there are times when you need more than 10 in between two cues, and you have to start moving stuff around. It can be kind of a pain. So that's why most people number off or a little differently. With the new consoles, you now have 100 cues in between each cue, so because you have 0.2 places over. Not 199, sorry. But what information do you put on the cue list? I like to have the cue number there. So it's I like to have the cue number on the first column. Sometimes I move this around, but for now I've been doing page numbers here. And then I always put the cue timing in here, and I like to indicate whenever I've got like a wait or something like that. Sometimes I might have a separate column for a wait or a follow, just so that I know and the stage manager knows what's going to happen. I'll typically put some sort of description here, what it is. I always start like my cue with my preset, or house to half, or then I'll go into house to half. Meg Up is our artistic director, does a curtain speech. Okay, but then I'll typically go into, you'll take a house out and then a preset out, and then I'll go up into the show. You can kind of see that here. We had a band, so we had the band actually played a little bit. Since it's a musical, I always like to put what song we're doing. Clearly, Wayne and I Wayne was my assistant on this. Didn't spell check this, so this is what this song is. So I know where the songs begin and end. Cue. This is nothing right now. Not sure why I had that in there. So that's like the most basic cue list. I just want to show you a couple others real quick. This is mine for 90% metaphor. I think this version, Stefan Duga and I worked on this together. This was my remount of this show. We did it time coded, so Stefan went in and put in like when the time code was in every single one, so that we had a good tracking record of what that was going to be. Now again, cue number, cue time, the action, and then whatever notes. Now what was really cool about this was we actually went in and took all of our notes about the cues in the cue list. So he just went and put a column in for every date, and then we would put the notes in there, and then we crossed them off when we got those notes done. This is the Macbeth Cue List. Now this is the one we put out to the stage manager, because when you see the other one, you'll know why. The other one had a whole lot of stuff in it. So this is one where, again, same thing as before. We got the page number and the scene number just to make it a little easier to work with. One of the things that we had to do in this show is we had to track some things in the cues because we were on an older console. We didn't have tracking or anything like that, so we would track where the VL was, where the scrollers were, where the lanterns were. And then here's notes, and then this is the other one we put in. There's go. This is the notes for it, but this is we actually would put when the go was for a particular cue, if it was important. Okay, and then this is Charlie Brown. I just want to show this one because this one we notated the spot cues. So when the spots came in, the spots came out. Charlie Brown, I want to say Wayne probably did this. Maybe not sure. Okay, and the last cue list is on preview. Let me switch over to that. And I just wanted to show you my Romeo and Juliet cue list. This is an older one, but we spent a little more time making it colorful and pretty. With the intensities, we actually did time up and time down, or if it was a full intensity time, we just did that as well. So that is, in a nutshell, how you build a cue list.